We are rolling, and I'm back again with TC, otherwise known as Texas Slim. I call him the Beef Baron and my soul brother because I
Mhm.
absolutely love how take charge you are. Man, you're kind of like that bull, that tourist, that whatever
Right. That's
that
funny.
just focuses and plows through. I'm so impressed with how you'll take something from the ethers and just bring it to the earth, which is a talent for sure. That would be one of the things I would love to cover today if we have time. But go ahead and give us your update. You had your Beef Initiative kickoff conference in Kerrville. Tell us how it went, and we'll go from there.
Hey, Carmen. Uh, you always brighten my day. Thank you. I love being
Thanks.
on the show. Our conversations are always very valuable and everything because we really are helping our building a community. So thank you. Good to see you. Yes, we had the conference in Kerrville on Saturday. It's the first annual Beef Initiative Conference. It's grassroots. I always tell everybody this is grass fed and grassroots. This is really about building communities and letting everybody understand that there's something going on right now, and it's becoming a very good distraction because it's basically the root of this is based on a new health initiative across the United States and really the world. And anybody can participate in this. The Beef Initiative was founded whenever a lot of people know I went and bedded myself in a harvest company. I needed to look at food from a different perspective. And by doing that, yeah, I come from agriculture, many generations in the state of Texas, grew up knowing livestock, 4-H, FFA, just the dirt roads of Texas. That's just where I came from. So, and then as an adult, I learned how to be a research and an analyst and stuff like that. So I just put together some skill sets and I said, man, there's a solution here. I don't really know what the solution is, but there's a new calling for me personally and for a lot of people, I think, in the United States. So we had to get back to the source of the seed of our food. What is food intelligence? Where does it come from? And so I've really been dissecting all that and kind of writing about it. And this conference was kind of like the kickoff, saying, all right, guys, here we are. We're talking about beef. We're talking about ranchers, farmers. We're talking about Bitcoin. We're talking about decentralization. We're looking at health again. We're looking at the medical community. Who's out there that's really ready to be able to tell a story about the last 2 years? Where are we with our health? And it all starts coming together in once we as people understand that we can actually be empowered again just because some really standard and based belief systems, we find out there's a lot of like-minded people. And whenever we did the conference, I mean, I've done this is all self-funded and everything. I've had volunteers helping out, and everybody did kind of rally, and it was a very successful conference with great speakers. Everybody had a great time. We had great food, good music. It was a fun day. It was pretty magical.
Well, and you picked a great day for weather too. It was, it wasn't too hot because sometimes it can get hot here.
Right.
So that was also a bonus. And so when you talk about the dirt roads of Texas, it always makes everything sound so romantic. And since I've been watching you, I've followed a lot of ranchers, and
Mm-hmm.
I am just blown away at their daily um, the weight of what they carry, with weather and calving and all of the stuff. Was it a predominantly male oriented conference?
It wasn't. There was plenty of men, of course, and it was from people from technology to professionals to ranchers, different types of ranchers, husbands and wives, independent, single women came. It was just a wonderful mix. That's what was so pleasing about it was that the different types of people that did show up. So that means we're hitting a chord in a lot of different types of demographics, age groups. And so that's what's really neat about this. I see the moms really getting involved, and
Yeah.
they're thinking about food and they're thinking about lifestyle. So the diversity of it as far as across the state of Texas was great. The diversity, I think we had 13 states that were represented, and people
Wow.
came from up north, from like Boston area, Philadelphia. We had somebody, California, I believe, Arizona, Colorado, of course. It was just a good mix of states, Tennessee, Illinois. So just to name all of them, it was kind of fun to be able to. That's my second phone. Hold on.
Yeah, no worries, no worries. My cat was attacking me, and
I saw
as your
that.
phone.
Hey, yeah, this is the fun part of being live, right?
Yes, I
So,
asked my daughter to help me out with that one.
um, but anyways, the diversity was great. And what's fun about this is you get to see everybody start talking to each other like they've already known each other. There's a form of trust that's been built up because we're all kind of following the same path here.
Right, right. You just have that trust in that one area for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you like I was ever since I've met you, I've been more interested in what goes on in the beef world or the cattle world. I was watching a video, it was early on when the pandemic happened, and there was a rancher that literally got on and just was saying, "Hey, there's all these this cattle that is not getting in, they're being euthanized." Is that true? Was that a thing that was going on?
Oh yeah, I mean it happens. It's happened throughout the history of us being alive in the United States of America. When we saw it, it was very impactful, and there's always some truths to it, and there's some manipulations to every situation that happens. But what we as people don't understand is how those gray areas are manipulated into how they do go out and utilize animals. It's a form of information warfare that's it's always used, and
Wow.
it's being used right now. I mean, we had like 8 processing plants that have been firebombed recently across the United States. They did 120,000 pounds of E. coli. They took beef off out of the system, out of market access. There's a lot of things that are happening, and they're always going to say it's to save you or for human health. Those areas are so gray anymore. I don't even really pay attention to the distractions anymore, because that's what they are. It's a form of manipulation,
For
and
sure.
it's happening across the world now as they're trying to introduce this fake commodity meat into the American diet, and really across the world as well. And I know what's going on, and I mean, I've been predicting it since last summer that this was going to happen, and this is said with complete humility. But I saw this, and this is kind of how I started out the food intelligence, and the first writings of the Harvest of Deception. It's like, hey, folks, this is what's going on with food, and this is where we are going. You need to pay attention. Well, what's the solution to that? Well, you better start learning what a rancher is again, and what a true farmer is from the regenerative side of things, and not somebody that's overly their inputs are from these chemical companies. And it's not talking about anybody that is. This is where we are. This is what we were taught. And so it's not a judgment to farmers or ranchers across the board. What it is, it's an awakening. It's an awakening saying, hey, we're metabolically bankrupt in this country, and basically we need to take a look at this. And it's because of our consumption models. And so the consumption models being food, audio, video, we have to change. We have to understand, well, who's the best person to do that? Well, it's the American rancher. They're decentralized in their form of communications. They use the soil to feed these animals and to steward these animals. And they know what soil is, they know what grass is, they know what a cow is, and they know what pure animal protein is. That is your avenue into human health that's going to get us out of this rut. And so I'm glad you're seeing a lot of ranchers and you see that there's calving, there's weaning, there's seasons, there's, weather seasons. There's so many things that they battle, from drought to too much rain to late snows up in Canada right now to droughts here in Texas. Then they have to battle commodity prices, subsidy prices. They have to look at USDA insurance policies and regulations and insurances. There's so much that they have to battle 24/7. It never stops, and they do not get the credit that they deserve. And that's what
Absolutely
the
agree.
and
Yeah.
that's the beef initiative. It's like, hey, people, we're going to bridge this gap of we're going to educate you, and we're going to bring you some food intelligence that you need.
So good. So I have a question. A lot of times when people get involved in something, there's something at the core of who they are that is the impetus or the launching. And so, did you ever have a time period in your life where you didn't have food, or you were like a food scarcity type of situation that you could kind of relate to? Or was it really just looking at the children?
Man, that's a good question. That's the first time really anybody's asked me. And it's good because I don't like to, I try not to boast or anything like that. If I ever do, it's just I'm being sarcastic. But anyways, yeah, man, I grew up a poor boy in a small Texas town. And at one time, one of my first memories, and we were not in poverty. I'm not saying that. I'm not from poverty, but we were somewhat poor. I remember having, cheese and milk delivered to our porches. It was a commodity delivery. That happened in the region of Texas that I grew up with. So yeah, that is something that I've seen and I've lived through as well. The last 2 years before I went on that harvest, I was going across the United States and going into food banks. I was working with the homeless. I was working with church communities, across many states and saying, hey, what are you feeding these homeless? Because these part of being homeless is a lack of nutrition. It's basically something there. So I looked at the perspective, I looked at schools, and I saw the poverty that's going on. And I also, what stood out the most was the nutritional starvation. We have plenty of food in this nation, or what they call food, but what we do not have is enough nutrition, because it's affecting our mental health. It is affecting our children. It just is.
Yeah, for sure. And that was that was one of my observations when I visited a food pantry. I couldn't believe that, there was Lucky Charms and, Pop Tarts and all this stuff that I personally wouldn't have considered food, and was kind of surprised. And they felt like, oh, well, at least it's something, it's all we're getting because these big, ag companies are donating it. And and so, yeah, I am in 100% agreement with you that that's quite frightening. I
Yeah.
also found out that there is a ranch in Texas. It's the largest in the world. It's 500,000 acres.
Which one are you
It
talking
was
about?
it was the Wagoner that was the LA, one of the pro teams, the owner Stan Kroick or something
Hmm.
like that, purchased it.
Right.
I could not believe it. I was just like, it is literally the size of Rhode Island.
I know it's freaking huge.
So
And
have
the
you
thing,
ever been there? Have you ever
I
been to
man,
it?
I've never been to the inside of it. It's been a while, to tell you the truth, that I've been by that. I was younger. But puts a perspective, is the big Texas ranches.
Huge,
Yeah.
huge. 5 counties. Like that's insane.
Well,
It
you look
covers five.
the panhandle of Texas. Let's look at the Four Sixes Ranch. Now that's owned by, basically Yellowstone Productions, of the TV series Yellowstone. Well, the Four Sixes Ranch ran into the Matador, which ran into the XIT. You want to talk about the size of small states right there, and that's what Texas. This is how we were formed. It was based on ranches and cattle. So it's a fascinating dive into history, and what you do, it's kind of I mean, it's extremely enlightening, and it really gets you, like I say, I mean, let's look at our food, let's look at our history, let's look what our ancestors did to get us here. And it becomes a lifestyle, and you can start with a Texas ranch.
What's so cool is W.T. Wagoner, the gentleman that
Hmm.
purchased all this land. He literally came to Texas with half a dozen cattle and $3.25, which I don't
Right.
even know how much that equates to in the 1800s for Bitcoin, but
Right.
it's just like wow. And then the other thing that was fascinating to me, and I didn't know, but it did raise a question for me. What is it about the trails? Why do they take them on like the Chisholm Trail or
Hmm.
whatever? Why do they run them across the world like they did in City Slickers?
Sure. In the state of Texas, what happened? You had from, I'd say, whenever Texas became its own country, and then all the way that it shifted into basically becoming a state, that was from 1845, and then let's look and reflect back to basically the the end of the Civil War, right? Okay, and then what happened after the Civil War? Well, what found there was plenty of cattle that got spread across, the state of Texas. And so once that happened and we became a state that was part of the union, we were a country again and everything. Well, everybody looked at Texas and said, we need food, we need animal protein. And so you had millions and millions of cattle that had spread during the Civil War, during the Comanche Wars, during Texas really fighting for independence. The cattle became a wild animal herd basically across our state. So we started getting organized. We started forming these ranches. Well, they had to get the cattle up north to feed a nation. That's what we were doing. That's the cattle drive. You
Got
start in
it.
South Texas and you make your way up all across the state, and you created these trails in which would take you to Amarillo, Texas, take you to Fort Worth, the stockyards, it'd take you up to Kansas, it'd take you to New Mexico, take you over a little bit more so to the east was already established with railroads and stuff. So it was different. But if you looked at the middle of the country and to the west, we had to drive those cattle. And there, hence you get the cowboy.
Yeah. And then I also was reading that the vaqueros,
Yeah.
the Spanish vaqueros, are the ones that basically taught us
Oh yeah.
that whatever style of cowboying there is, which is really cool history also.
Oh yeah, the Cowboys started down in Mexico, and the Texians, that was, before Texas was even Texas, it was you had Texians. That's what they went by. And so you had this emergence of cultures from all the way over from Europe, from South America, and in Mexico was a good gateway to join Texas and Mexico together to form this culture of a cowboy. But the early vaqueros were the best freaking rope, man. They can work a rope pretty well. It's pretty fascinating in how they do
Those
things.
Yes, it. I don't know. I've been surprised at how interesting it is.
I'm telling
'Cause
you, it's a lifestyle. If people just open up their eyes a little bit and point that compass in a different direction, man, it's all right in front of us. It's free. It's like it's a journey that you can
yeah.
go on, and it goes right into our food intelligence.
What was the reaction of the ranchers? Because I would imagine they feel seen for the first time in a long
Hmm.
time, probably. And so, what was their reaction
Well,
to the conference?
it's interesting with the ranchers just per se, and this is 100% valid about the cause and effect. You go up on a rancher, you step up on a rancher, you better know how to talk like a rancher. You better show some respect, and you better, not come, I call it rent seeking behavior. You better come up and say, hey, I want to know more about you and what you're doing, and I want to show you some respect. You shake their hands and you look at them in the eyes, and then they say, hey, what do you want? What is your intention here? I'm not going to be giving you some free information just to satisfy a yearning or something like that you have. So once I kind of people see who I am and where I'm coming from, is like, hey man, I'm all about helping you out. And this is about community and respect and a love for our tradition and our heritage. They open up and they start understanding that this is for a good cause. So every rancher there was the most humble and confident and very appreciative that they're being seen, just like you said. And so this is something that is like I say, it's free. And I take the responsibility to let the ranchers know this is something that we're going to do, and we're going to do it together, and we're going to have some success at this because we have the skill sets and we have the tools. And they're starting to see that. And that's kind of the beautiful thing.
So neat. And then the other thing, somebody made a comment that said, you know, if you have a ranch, you usually marry it or inherit it.
Yeah,
And so, what is it that keeps people from getting involved in it? I mean, I know that it's a huge number to start a ranch, even if you have only 200 head or whatever.
sure.
Um, you're looking at millions of dollars. But there's a lot of people that have millions of dollars. And
Yeah.
so how would you inspire somebody that has the money that doesn't want to spend it in this way? What would you say to them if you were like selling a ranch and you were trying to get them involved in it? I would love to hear.
I say anymore that people that have the means to do this and they want to be involved with the United States is that you basically the one thing that has stopped us is a form of ignorance, but it's innocent. It's not a bad ignorance. It's just like, how would I approach even doing this? Because all you see is TV, and all you see is the manipulation that goes on. The best way, if you have the means to look at this, is that you're securing the health of a nation by going out and operating a ranch at this point in time in our history, because the vertical integration into human health starts with the soil, then to the grass, and then into the cow, and then for the producer, the rancher, and then into basically how do you process that into basically market access of pure animal protein that is human health. And so if you can look at that vertical integration into human health, well, that's what a rancher is doing. And that's how you can look about, hey, I need to invest in this land that's basically being taken over in certain ways that a lot of people don't understand by the globalist, by billionaires that have no interest in except to making you dependent upon them. And so this is how you take some sovereignty back. You bring an individual independent spirit to back into what it is to be a rancher. And you do that, you create awareness, you create a food supply if you want, and you create a vertical integration into human health. Therefore, we're saving the children in the United States and giving them the chance that you and I had as we were children with better food. That access is not there anymore. So
Right.
we have to create this market access into human health again, and it's being led by the American rancher.
Well, it's really cool because to me, it is truly a hero space. If
Mm-hmm.
somebody chooses to do this at this point in time, because for some reason humans have to feel the pain before they
Yeah,
actually get motivated. Very often, I would say 80% minimum of the time. And I was watching a video that just came by on Twitter, and it was a food line in Italy. And I thought, if every single one of those people in that line would get together and and go to their churches or their apartment complexes or wherever and say, we need to start growing animals, or what is it, raising animals. We need to
mm-hmm.
grow food. Um, you know, but we don't want to have to get to where there's the food lines.
Yeah,
And so to create the urgency now, but I love the piece where you're marrying the food intelligence and the entire health program. I've got the Meat Mafia coming on later today, and I'm excited
great.
to introduce them to my subscribers because it's fun to see somebody in the younger generation
Mm-hmm.
that you've been working with, really launching something and being totally honest, like brutally honest about their health. And they're young and they were having big issues with weight or being really sick. This used to be an older man's game. And so, do you want to speak to how it's affecting the younger generations now, too?
Yeah, in going back to like you're saying, the food lines, this is what I'm telling everybody is like we have to be ready to engineer a little bit of our own suffering at this point in time, or that suffering will be engineered upon you by somebody else. And so take that responsibility to, I need to understand what food intelligence is, and I need to know and how to create my own market access to my nutrition. So good points. As far as, the average age of the American rancher right now is like 60 something. So we're losing everybody that knows this culture as far as ranching. But then again, our nutrition and a lot of things that we've been told throughout the years have been false. And we're starting to see that. And you have the meat mafia guys, Salazzo and Clemenza is what they go by. Clemenza came to me and he said, "Hey, I found your Substack and I want to, could I contribute?" I said, "Heck yeah." I said, "I want to help anybody out that wants to have this narrative to help spread the word. We're going to help people and get you started." And so they started writing for my Substack, and here they are. They're getting a lot of recognition because they do have stories, and they were young, they were healthy, and they had basically illnesses that were very. One of them, Salazzo, had something. His prescription that he was supposed to take, as far as shots, were $500,000, $400,000. And so this is where we've come from health. For how we look at health. It was nothing to make him be able to have a solution within his health. So what he had to do as an individual, he had to dive down into some food intelligence, and he basically went off and he healed himself. And they do have these stories, and they are young adults. And it speaks to our young children in this nation right now. 46% of our children in the United States between the ages of 5 and 11 are either obese or they're overweight, and they're going towards diabetes. We have children coming in that are basically, we know, Mary Care, our MD, Mary, children are coming in with fatty liver disease that alcoholics have after 20 to 30 years of drinking. This is something that is happening under the Americans' noses, and they don't see it because they don't have access to this information, because they're looking and paying attention to the wrong news channels or whatever it is. They're not really paying attention what's really going on with our children's health. And it is not a good outlook right now. And we have to look at this vertical integration into human health is going to save children's lives. And the meat mafia guys, that's exactly what they're doing. They're starting, because their younger guys are going to look at them, and they're going to they want to be mentored. And so that whole spectrum of age, we're getting it from the older generation all the way through generational X, all the way down to what we have now in Zoomers and Boomers and everybody. So everybody's getting involved with this, and that's the beautiful thing.
What about, let's say you did talk somebody into getting a ranch, and being one of these people that
Mm-hmm.
stand up and actually lead in this food intelligence, and we don't want to have the shortages. Um, are there enough cowboys to help them?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, there's plenty of cowboys out there. That's another thing. There's one thing about a cowboy is it has nothing to do with making money, man. We don't have money. I mean, you're lucky you get paid after a month or something. You get to go in town. Your payment is, room and board, and you get to work and you get to do whatever. And so you think that you'd have any shortage of young men wanting to go out and cowboy right now? Heck no. You'd be fine. And that's what the Beef Initiative is going to do, is bridging those gaps. It's like if somebody went out there and they wanted to, really look at getting a ranch, and they had their eye on something. We've got the intelligence and the expertise within the Beef Initiative saying, come this way, let's sit down at a table and see what you want to accomplish. At the conference, I was able to announce, and I've been holding my tongue on this one, but we're going to have the Beef Initiative Association Council. And what that is, people are going to come through. This is going to be the gateway. If you want to open up a processing center in the state of Texas, one of the micro or medium-sized regional or local processors, you're going to come to us, and we're going to advise you. And what we're going to do is we're going to get the job done. We have USDA precedents. We have everything from the ground up and all the way into a passing inspection. We have proof of work, and we have the experts that know how to get you there. And so that's another form of basically, giving people access to our damn land again, and giving access to people saying, hey, you can dream again. We got this. This is part of the Beef Initiative. We are all an association that is a council. Once again, this is about human health.
Right. Well, and then I was also looking back at some of the older videos because it kind of helps to see what people thought back then and coming forward. And so
Hmm.
there was one gentleman that was sharing that it had gone, and I think these were similar numbers to what you told me, where there was something around 1,000,002 ranchers in like 1979 or something like that. And
Yeah.
then most recently in like 2020 there were only like something like 700,000. Did COVID knock off a bunch of those?
Yeah, I mean, it probably helped. That there's probably a lot of people, they don't know where their entry point into ranching is, because it's such a volatile and manipulated and kind of a corrupt market at times. It's like people will get into it and they want to do it, but it becomes a hobby, but then they're losing money. So looking at the index of people that are actually call themselves ranchers in the United States is pretty broad. It's usually not something that is very well tracked. And so of course COVID, also we lost a lot of people maybe that had some heritage and tradition in their ranching that they had to get out of it. And then you had maybe newcomers getting into it because they were leaving the cities and they had extra fiat cash and they're saying, hey, I'm going to be a rancher. So it's really hard to gauge exactly what that impact was, but it was pretty volatile the last 2 years. And it's getting more and more like that up here in the Texas Panhandle. There's a ranch called Turkey Track Ranch, and it's for sale. It's 88. Shoot, how many? 88,000 acres, and they're wanting $200 million for it. And it's like, wow, here we go. Because all these
The
other
land's
ranchers
the
have been.
big cost, yeah.
It is, but what's your intent with being a rancher? Right now, the intent is people are taking a lot of damn profit off of it. A dollar that's been debased so much that there's no way in hell that I'd ever sell a ranch right now. It's false. It's false profit. The only thing that is valuable is having that land and keeping it here where it is in the state of Texas and across the nation. But Texas is where we are, both you and I. And it's very important that people really start understanding what's unfolding as far as our land and our food. And people need to step up. They need to understand that, hey, this is a call to action here. This is not entertainment. This is not Dallas, the soap opera series of the 70s or whenever that was. This is something that is real life right now, and they can be a part of it. And this is what that's why we are an association, to help people understand that they do have access to something that they can protect.
I love it. So tell me, you know how one of the biggest problems with most industries is there's a template, and then everybody follows the template because it's already done.
Right.
What ways are you guys thinking completely out of the box? Not your normal, like I'm gonna try to, promote it this way or that way, but like
Mm-hmm.
completely changing the game. Or
Well,
if you are.
yeah, but we're reinventing the wheel, and in a way that it's available to us. And the reason it's available to us is because our grandparents did it. Okay. Well, during the 70s, especially, I'll just start with the 70s. That's when a lot of manipulation started happening because we changed farming and ranching across the United States for the last 50 years, and that's why we got here. So it's so simple, it's complex, because the universities are taught and funded by chemical corporations and by people that actually make billions of dollars
Just
off of
like
the. Yeah,
pharma.
just like farming, it is no different. So what we're doing that is so simple is that we're leveraging the dang land again, instead of leveraging the chemicals, the pesticides, the herbicides, the processing centers, everything. What we're doing is that vertical integration is what our grandparents did. They started with the soil and they made sure the soil was good. Then they made sure the grass was good. That way the cow was good, or the animal that they were raising. They were the producer. They were the independent, decentralized producer. They knew where they were going to get processed. Then by that processing center, they had a relationship. They knew what their market access. Well, it was their local community. And so it's not impossible to do. It's being done. And especially like right now, today, After this, I'm going to my local producer and picking up part of my full cow that I picked out that he raised and then he processed. And then I brought two of my friends in with me. So their family is fed for the next half of the year. And
Yay.
it is so simple. So that's what we're doing. It can be done, and it's being led in Texas. And that's why, well, through the Beef Initiative is really taking it to the next level. That's that part of the awareness. And so, we're here and this is what's happening, and everybody can be involved. Everybody has that access to be able to do what we're doing.
So in your mind, kind of go through like some of the tabs on Beef Initiative, because there's also a volunteer kind of concept.
Sure.
And I know you haven't raised money yet, but there could be people that are interested in contributing to for food security for
Mm-hmm.
children through the Beef Initiative. I'm super interested in knowing more about that.
Yeah, within the beef, I'll give you the good. That's a great question that I was kind of thinking about. I was actually talking to Mary earlier in with the beef initiative right here behind us. There's the little sponsors. It says right there. There was two great sponsors. It was TFTC, which is led by Marty Bent. It's a media company within Bitcoin, right? And then we had KNC Cattle and Two Bar G Ranch. Those were some other sponsors. It was Cole Bolton and his partner Clive. Well, what they were basically the foundation layer of a scholarship trust that the Beef Initiative is creating right now. And what we're going to
Awesome.
do, I'm going to basically every time that we give out a new scholarship towards the end of this year, we'll be announcing that in November. We're going to give a scholarship away to one person that deserves it, or whatever, the process that we go to. And that rancher that donated that money, or that person that donates that money to the Beef Initiative, basically is the sponsor of that scholarship. So that's how people can help. So they can approach me and say, hey, I want to be a part of that scholarship foundation. And we're going to protect it in different ways as far as being a trust. We're bringing in the Bitcoin ethos to it. We're bringing in ways that money will be secure and it will be used for the right reasons. And so that's one way people can actually help out with the Beef Initiative. And if they want to contribute, right now, like I said, I haven't asked for donations or anything. This has been out of my pocket. So I have to say, if you find value within the Beef Initiative, provide value for value. Whatever you want to do is contribute. Is it your time? Because we have some very great people that have helped us put off the conference. Mary came up to me and she said, how did you pull this off? And I said, well, it's the people, it's this grassroots. It is the people stepping up, and they're experienced. They have skill sets, and anybody that wants to contribute, I'm not turning anybody away. I will find a way that you can contribute, be it monetarily, if that's how you have to do it. Adam Curry, that's what he does. He's like, everybody's helping out so much. If you want to contribute to the operational cost, all that kind of stuff, then don't be afraid to ask for it. That's what he tells me. And so I'm at to that point, and I was like, okay, if you want to provide value, I'm driving across the United States this whole year. We're having 4 national conferences. That's gas money. I'm trying to get a Beef Initiative truck, to tell you the truth, because mine's getting worn out. I've done about 100,000 miles. So there's just ways you can come to me and we can have a discussion, and I'll just be upfront and honest, man. I liquidated my life to do this. That's how much I believe in it. I live in like 2 or 3 different places, and everybody's, I visit my family. My father, he's 80 years old. I'm helping take care of him. I check in with him. My mother is the same. So we're all in this together, and I'm just being fluid, and we're just making this happen. And that's where it comes from. Is my intent is to save children's lives.
Yeah, that's so cool. And to be honest, I think that one of the problems with just the people, the way that when you get spoiled or entitled, or you haven't worked hard, or you, for whatever reason, have just kind of coasted along, you don't really appreciate how hard work is actually rewarding, and it creates character, and it does all these things. But it also, those type of people are not collaborative people. They want credit, they're greedy, they want
Mm-hmm.
all the attention, they want all the microphone, they want everything. And what's been really beautiful about this is watching people collaborate
Yeah.
and coming together like that biblical body of Christ, which is, I think, absolutely beautiful. And it's something I've been waiting my whole life for, because I've always been confused as to why people weren't as collaborative as I was. But what I
Right.
didn't realize is that they haven't been raised that way. And that's one of the things, going back to, like, you said something about the Cowboys not making much money, but what they do get is a lot of character, and they get a lot of what cause and effect is, and they really understand, um to how to reap rewards because you've sown, something. And
Yeah.
so I think that's one of the most beautiful things about this initiative. And you're ahead of it. There are no food lines. There's still stuff in the stores, but that doesn't mean it's going to stay that way, especially with, like you said, a lot of these meat packing companies investing in other things.
Yeah.
And now with the fires and the different, very odd, very odd stuff.
The
And like I had
ongoing
sent
crap.
you, I sent you the article about the 900 bison that they're killing at
Hmm.
Yellowstone, and then something like Mary sent us a deal about a million sheep
In
in
Ireland.
Europe.
Yeah. Yeah. Northern Ireland. Yeah. It's happening
And then
worldwide.
they're like, "Oh, we have no food."
Well, that's by design, people. I mean, people, it's hard for people to understand. And, like I say, this is never a judgment, but I'm really calling from a freaking rooftop or mountaintop right now and saying, this is real. This is something I don't think we've ever seen in the way that it's being kind of manipulated, even if it doesn't hit like, a lot of people are afraid of. Let's just put it in perspective here. Even if it doesn't hit as hard, the number one reason you should be paying attention to food intelligence and the beef initiatives right now, because it changes your life. You are a healthier person in your mind, body, and spirit. That's why, moving forward, I started out with providing tons of really based intelligence about food. It was boots on the ground, everything. And it, for me to stay in that loop of the manipulation would be irresponsible. And that's why I'm really starting to kind of yell a little bit louder, doing a lot more interactions, the conferences. It's hard to pull off 4 national conferences whenever you're doing it out of your own pocket. And so what people need to understand is, if you do get involved with this, you don't have to pay attention to the manipulation anymore. You don't have to pay attention to the noise and the distractions and the evil spirit that's basically all over our food supplies and our health. What you could do is you become the distraction. You become the distraction by your changing your lifestyle in a way that's going to make you happier. It's going to give you better spirit, and it's going to give you more strength. Your mental capacity is going to be better, and your heart's going to fill with a lot of joy, because you're going to be meeting these people, like you say, that want to collaborate, Carmen. This is happening, and it's happening in real time. And it's changed my life for the better. I'm the happiest I've ever been, and I'm the hardest working I've ever been in certain ways. I did grow up in dirt roads. We used to work pretty hard. But anyways, this is hard work, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. And I want people to come along. This is something that's going to happen, and it's about
Yeah.
to get pretty loud.
Well, it's fun, and I love sharing it with people. So thank you for gracing us and sharing with us. Anita, my one of my moderators, said that this man is a national treasure, and I agree. We
Well,
have to take good care of you. One of the things
that's
that I've been
beautiful.
tickled by is, it started out first, I was getting, hey, I bought a quarter cow. Then somebody is like, oh, guess what? I bought a whole cow. And then
Hmm.
now I've got somebody that's like, I bought a cow and a pig. Because it's I think it's one of those things that once you get how it works, you're like,
Yeah,
oh, this
there
is
you
so
go.
this is so easy, this is so wonderful. And like you said, they're splitting them with people, so that means that one person is now sharing this concept with, 4 people, because they're
Yep.
all sharing the cow. And so it's growing. So I love that. I love that I'm learning more about history. I love that I'm learning more about, Texas. The other thing is, I really do love watching the Twitter ranchers, because It's an awakening, but it's also a romanticizing because the children out with the calves
I
and
know it.
the pictures, they're so precious. But then also, they'll show, their tractor knocked over or something that the wind, knocked over, and they wake up to, maybe a dead cow. It makes you kind of long for that old fashioned small town life, you
It
know?
is. I mean, unless you, and that's just the kind of my spirit. It's like I know what it feels like to be in that element, the smells that you smell, the sounds you hear in silence, that it's not noise, it's not everything, it's part of that the romanticized thing that happened in our lives. Is just the Western spirit is alive and well right now. People just don't know how to find it. And let's tell a story. The last 2 weeks, okay, we had a major snowstorm up in Canada. Okay, then we had major rains in Dakotas. We're having a drought in a lot of the Midwest, in the state of Texas. And then we're having plenty of rain out east. Okay, you follow these ranchers all the way from Canada, all the way to the Gulf of Mexico, out east, out west, you're going to have 20 different stories of hardships and of victories, because we're in calving season. Some calves were getting, they might be freezing. And then, you're having calves in the state of Texas. You're basically being born in a drought. There's so many things that you're seeing. If you follow these ranchers, you start seeing a little bit about, man, this is real time. This is what I really should be paying attention to, because it is romantic. It is something that gets back to proof of work, and that people do stuff because they love it, and they battle every day, and they face those battles with a lot of charm and a lot of truth, and they're very honest. They post
So
things that
true.
are, there was a picture today of a young girl, and her calf had passed away. It had died,
Mm.
didn't make it through the weaning process, or the calving process. I'm sorry. You see it, it's real time and it's real life. And once you get into it, you're not going to look at anywhere else. You're going to point your compass right there to what's real and true.
One of the ones that shocked me was triplets.
Yeah,
Picture
I
of,
saw that.
whoa, I didn't even know that
It
could
happens
happen.
very rarely, yeah. But when that happens, I mean, it's pretty cool to watch and kind of unfold. You get the one of those mama
It's
cows
like a
that's had that.
jackpot.
Nice and wide, yeah.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
Oh, I love that. I do. And so, what about diversity in ranching? Like, is there, are there people of all different races? And, I don't really focus on this normally, but I think that it would be cool if there were.
Let's look at ranching as as far as animal producing, or grass farming. Like a lot of people, this is a global thing. We call it ranching. A lot of people call it grass farming, animal producing across the world. This is about as diversity. I mean, there's the diversity of the world is within ranching. Anybody can get into it, but what you have to do is that you have to understand that you have to get to the root, the seed, the source of the seed of how to do it. And the best way that I know in my lifetime is to talk to me, being from Texas, as a Texas rancher. Incorporate yourself into their lives, and you can do that with an open hand, and with a look, a stare into their eyes, and you'll find out your path, that this is available to me. It doesn't matter your color, your race, your age, your ethnicity, your sex. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with intentional behavior, with the passion to have basically create a whole new movement, that we're going to leverage our ancestors' history and our tradition and heritage in a way that we're going to basically steward into the new empowerment that we need as a nation. So anybody can be involved in this.
Love it, love it. And so one more question, or just wondering where you're going. So when
Sure.
is the next one? And I
Okay.
know that you had mentioned that you are doing a biblical beef broth
Yeah.
initiative.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
I would love to hear about both of those before we close down for the hour.
Okay, as far as where we are going, okay, we're going to be in Colorado, Crawford, Colorado, July 20. I'm going to go there for like a week or 10 days. I'm taking my son. He graduates this year. And so him and I are going to go and do fly fishing all over and go camping in Colorado the whole week of the conference will be around the 22nd through the 24th in Crawford, Colorado. It's going to be at Rick Ranches. Jason's a friend of mine, and he's part of the Beef Initiative. He was in Kerrville. So there's going to be tons of announcements that come out for that conference this weekend. Probably Saturday, we'll have where you can buy tickets. You can get, we've already got 20 campgrounds. And so we're going to have campgrounds that are available. You can make it a family vacation. We're going to have all kinds of information the next 2 months. It's
Right.
about Colorado in the Colorado Beef Initiative Conference. And then
So people that want to fly in, is Telluride the closest?
man, I think you can fly into Aspen. You can fly into what is it, Montrose?
So Aspen's closer. Okay.
It's on the other side of the mountain there.
Right.
Crawford, Colorado. It's a destination spot once again. So you're gonna have to
Yeah.
work at it, but you'll get there if you want to.
Right.
So
I mean, there's this, you could always drive.
right. And you can. That's what I'm doing. I'm driving for, that's all I do is drive. I like driving. And
More
so,
miles.
but well, you get to see the country and everything. So that's going to happen in July. And Saturday we'll have a lot of, go to the beefinitiative.com and you'll see everything. And then in September, this is going to be a pretty exciting one as well. We're going to be in southern Georgia at White Oak Pastures with Will Harris. And so he's been doing this for about 25 years as far as regenerative farming and ranching. So that's going to be a fascinating conference. And then I was talking with Cole Bolton of K&C Cattle, and he's basically the ones that right now he's the rancher that supplies through the Beef Initiative. So it's
Right.
Cole's cattle. We're going to have in the 1st of November in Central Texas, maybe, I don't know, somewhere in Texas. You and I are talking about this as
Yeah, we're
well.
trying to figure it out.
So,
And I
but
did find out
somewhere,
they sold Circle T Rodeo
oh
Arena and all
darn.
that.
Well,
Unfortunately, because that would have been so cool if they still owned it because the place is perfect. But that doesn't mean that we can't still look at it.
no, we're going to
But
look at
we'll,
everywhere in Texas, right? And what we're going to do in the 1st of November, after we have these next two conferences, we will be leading and announcing basically the Great American Health Initiative that the American Rancher is going to lead throughout, with the Beef Initiative. This is kicking
gives me
off.
chills.
And what we're going to do, we're going to end this year going into the holidays, and all of us is going to have a new lifestyle that we're doing together. And it's going to be
Hmm.
basically saving children's lives and making our lives 10 times better than they have the last 2 years. This is
Yeah.
it. And we're going to yell really loud. And I want everybody involved, come through the Beef Initiative. Buy your beef through the Beef Initiative right now. You can buy beef boxes. That's helping the ranchers. It's
Right.
not, the process is, it's a little bit, it's new. It's not
Right.
going to be like shopping on Amazon. You're going to come there, you're going to get your beef, in a period of time. It's not overnight, but once it ships, it's there within 48 hours. And we have not had one complaint of everything. So it's going really well. So low time preference, go ahead and just, it's going to happen, and you have direct contact with me or Cole. So we're taking care of everybody, and we're starting to produce more and more customers basically that are coming into the Beef Initiative. And so
Yay.
we're offering some really good deals on that. What was the second question? I'm sorry,
The
that was
second
long.
question was that you had talked about doing a biblical bone broth
That's right. Okay,
where we could
here's
all do it
sure.
together.
Well, what we're going to do, I want everybody the Beef Initiative has a YouTube channel now. You can just search on YouTube. It's Beef Initiative, and I'll give you the information too, Carmen. We're going to announce with Mary Care, MD, our very good friend Mary. We're going to be having some announcements on Friday, and it's going to be a big call to action, and everybody's going to be asked to be involved with this. It's a really fun path that we're about to create for a lot of people that want to kind of do what basically you and I just talked about the last hour. There's something that's going to
Yay.
be,
I love it.
it's a little biblical. It's, it has a little bone in there, it has a little broth in there, it has, has a little
Well, I think we
ownership.
should definitely be praying during that time. While you're
Yes, we'll
fasting,
do.
you might as well get praying.
I've been fasting since I was in my 20s. And sometimes that I fasted, one time I did a 10-day fast. I used to write it, I wrote around Asia. I studied fasting, I studied meditation, but I did a 10-day fast once. And in the next 2 years of my life were fascinatingly went really well. I was very happy, and it started with that fast. People,
So
I think
cool.
they don't understand that a lot of fast comes, they're very spiritual. They get you based in life. They get you thinking differently again, and they're well worth. Once again, I said we need to engineer our own suffering a little bit right now. Going through a fast might be challenging, but we're going to have somebody there that's going to coach us through a way. I mean,
Yeah,
she's
and we're going to
the
all do
best
it
coach in the world,
together.
and we're going to do it together.
I
Exactly.
love it. And so I like ending with something for the people. So like,
Sure.
how is this life applicable? So one of the ladies was saying, "Hey, does he know ranchers in Northeast Florida?" Um, why don't you share with people how they can find out what ranchers are associated with you,
Mm-hmm.
and or how they can contribute, because I saw another person saying, "Hey, I know a great butcher in
Sure.
Michigan," or whatever. So share with
Perfect.
people
Yeah.
how they can like plug in.
Yeah, in the I battled this from the beginning as far as the index, as far as creating that database of ranchers, because it's not really that good. It's done, and it's been incorporated with data that's it's not valid. So I didn't want to do that. So we started once again, grass fed grassroots. You can go to beefinitiative.com and go to the producer section, and all these producers in that section of the Beef Initiative platform is because everybody across the nation is starting to put their rancher, their butcher, their animal producer into that section. And it says add producer. And that's all you have to do is put their information in there, their website, their phone number, whatever you want to with about that rancher, producer, butcher, whoever it is. Let people know that they're out there. If you're a rancher, do the same. Come to the Beef Initiative, put your information in there. This thing is building, and it's starting to, we've just started doing this, and this is going to be grassroots information that nobody has, and it's decentralized. It's input from everybody out there. And if you're like in Northeast, Florida, I've talked to a lot of people in Florida. They're starting to say, okay, we're going to start doing the Florida Beef Initiative. And so everybody
Yay.
in Florida, go to the producer section and put them in there. There's a really great ranch down south that I heard about whenever I was in Miami at the Bitcoin conference. And I believe it was River Bend Ranch in South Florida. She's a lady rancher, and she's doing this on her
Wow.
own. I mean, it's fascinating stories. So it's happening. And, the best way to share this information or to get somebody local to you is to go into the producer section and do that and
Perfect.
add
I
them
love
in
it.
there. Mm-hmm.
I love it. Well, I appreciate you so much, and I will continue to, have you on as often as you'd like, because it seems like every time you come, there's something else that you're offering to people that's really important. And if nothing else, just your mindset. I agree with you about the suffering.
Right.
A little bit now is way better than a whole lot later, especially like it for you and I, and we've talked about this off camera. It's not just about making sure our kids eat. Like I'm not going to be sitting up somewhere during like some sort of crazy, food shortage and saying, "Oh, I'm going to feed my kids, but your kids don't get any." I mean,
Yeah.
I'm thinking, how do we make sure everybody can eat, not just
It's
the
so
people in
true.
the initiative.
You have to, you're because that's we have an issue in our country right now, and it's called the religion of self. And we have to get that stuff out the door. It's kind of evil crap. The only the self exists. Whenever I'm thinking about obtaining and sourcing my food anymore, I'm thinking about, and I'm not a prepper, I'm not a doomer. I mean, I'm just being responsible, dang. I mean, that's all this is. And so I think about my mom, I think about my dad, I think about who's going to come knocking that maybe might not have the time to be participating in this. Who do I need to really make sure? And whenever, I bought that, got that cow from Justin here locally, I brought in two friends, and their family's going to be fed now, and they feel really good. And once that happens, you do start thinking, one of my friends has 8 children. Okay, now he's letting all of his children know and say, hey, there's some beef here, but you need to come and do what I did as well. It's just a conversation that starts flowing, and that's what people need to do. Have the conversation. It's okay to have it. It's not conspiracy. We're just taking care of our dang nutrition here, man. you
Yeah, so
know
I agree with you. I agree with you. And then too, just so that everyone knows, it's not just cattle. The Beef
no,
Initiative also,
animal
you,
protein,
you've
animal
got
protein.
the lamb, you've got the pork, and you've got connections to that as well.
Yeah,
Um,
it's everything that's animal protein that follows really, a good regenerative model that basically, it's pure, dense animal protein. You have fowl, you have lamb, like you said, hog, you have beef. Anybody can come through this. I tell everybody it's the beef initiative because I'm from freaking Texas. It's cows, man. It's cowboy for me. It's a cowboy way for me. So
Yeah, and you guys always have to put the horns on. It doesn't matter what it is in Texas. They've got to have the horns.
well,
Even
that
they
was
put
that
them on
was
the front of
it.
cars and stuff.
the
It's
longhorn
crazy.
the longhorn came from Mexico. That's what happened. You look at Lonesome Dove, that movie, it was longhorns. Well, those longhorns were basically rustled up from Mexico, and they were hardy in Texas because Texas was not the best place for cattle, but they can live on mesquite, a lot of different things. So that, once again, let's dive into the history of the longhorn, why it is. And so there's so much you can learn, and that it's fascinating. And once you start that rabbit hole, you're not going to
Yeah,
stop.
it is. It's fun because I was also kind of amazed. I didn't ever think about it because I was thinking about, oh wow, it all came from the Mexican um, influence. But then lariat, stampede.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of. There's a bunch of them, and they're all Hispanic words, right?
right.
It's
It
cool.
is. Well, just look at Texas. I was born outside of Amarillo, Texas. Everybody goes, Amarillo. What is Amarillo? Well, Amarillo is Amarillo, which is yellow in Spanish. So, I mean,
Oh,
if you look at Texas history, you're going to see a lot of it is very, very Texian. And so, mi hablo español un poquito. You learn that stuff from Texas. And so, that's what the history and the heritage is so fascinating. Once you kind of build, take Hollywood out of the picture, and
oh,
you become
yes,
your own
please.
researcher. Yeah, and let's really look what the history is. It's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, and I would encourage people from other states to look at theirs because
Oh
I
yeah.
think that there's that word just keeps coming up in my mind, that romanticizing. It really makes you appreciate just that being, that what we are, and how magnificent it really is. And
Hmm.
so thank you for getting us all on a new track that I think is very healthy. And I look forward to doing the bone broth.
Yes.
What are you calling it? The fast with you
Yeah, the
guys. So that'll
fast.
be great.
Yeah, definitely. We're all doing this together, Carmen. I mean, you and I have had some great conversations, and we're having fun, and everybody can have fun when they can join in. And that's what we're going to start doing. And so I
I'm
always
all for it.
appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And we'll have you back soon. And I'm looking forward to, you're the one that introduced me to the two gentlemen that are coming on later today at 2 o'clock.
Awesome. They're
And
great
their
guys.
stories are great and they're just gorgeous young men. So I'm excited to share them. And it's
Right.
thanks to you that I even know them. So appreciate all the connections.
You bet. And same with you. How did I meet Dr. Mary? Mary
Mary
Carey.
found you. Mary actually
Exactly.
found you. She was
Yeah.
the one that told me. So
See how all
got to
this
give
is
credit where
working.
credit.
It's just all connecting. It's
Yeah.
excellent. So
Everybody's bringing their stuff. So
you know
goodbye, everyone.